Well, hey, everybody, I'm David Ridings. Wow, swallowed down the wrong tube there. And this is my beautiful wife, Linda Ridings. And we still have breath. We're not wasting it. We're not wasting it anymore. We've wasted a lot of breath in our life. But now, we's woke. Not that kind of woke. This is I Still Have Breath, live on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. I Still Have Breath was founded in 2020 as a ministry of sorts, nonprofit ministry. We're just going to get vocal, and we're teaching about the word. We're teaching about what we think is important. Current events and what people need to know. And we've been very troubled of late with several different topics and things that are in the news. And one of the things that we want to talk about today is the demoralization of a nation. Is it possible for your enemy to demoralize a complete nation, an entire nation? And if so, how long would that take? What would it look like? What would it mean? What is demoralization, you say? To demoralize means to cause to turn away or aside from what is good or true or morally right, to corrupt the morals of, to weaken the morale or discourage or dispirit, to upset or destroy the normal functioning of, or to throw into disorder. Man, is that not a pretty good description of what's going on in this country today?
It's all part of the plan.
It is all part of the plan.
Which sounds like a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, we do sound
until it's not.
It's a conspiracy theory. And I mean, is it?
I don't think so anymore.
I don't think it's a theory. And if it's a fact, it's certainly not a conspiracy theory. Get my air quotes in the camera. It's not a conspiracy theory if it's based in fact.
Right.
So is it a fact? Just one, where does demoralization start? Let me take you to a little fun video that I found. This gentleman by the name of Yuri Bezmenov. Yuri Bezmenov is a former KGB agent who basically defected, and he warned us about what was coming and about socialist subversion.
What's the date on this?
This was June 21st, 2020.
That's not when it was made, though. You have to go into the show more.
Yeah, it was made, let me see, back in 1984.
1984.
This is coming.
Whoa. Remember that book, 1984?
Yeah, I do. So listen to what he's got to say, and then we'll talk some more about it. And we'll talk specifically how certain things are happening in our education system that you should be aware of.
And in 1984, we were 65, 75. We were about 30-ish. We were just about 30, about 29.
No, we weren't.
We were. We were born 65, 75, 85.
1890.
So we were about 20. 19.
Yeah, 19.
So we were very young when this was started.
Yeah, actually, it had begun before he made this.
Because we're in our mid-50s now. So this is a long game.
Let's let him tell you what demoralization is.
It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in four basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students.
It's important.
In the country of your enemy.
In your country of
exposed
your enemy.
To the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged.
Without being challenged.
By the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black, you still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible.
How?
To get rid society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded and common sense people who would be acting in favor and in the interests of the United States society.
And yet these people who've been programmed and, as you say, in place, and
Yes.
who are favorable to an opening with the Soviet concept, these are the very people who would be marked for extermination in this country.
Most of them.
And he goes on to say, these are the very people that would be marked for extermination. And once they achieve the goal of Marxism or communism, then the people that helped to achieve it would be targeted for extermination, because the leaders of that style of government, they won't tolerate people like that.
Right. That's where they have re-education camps, and some people can't be re-educated, so then they get rid of them.
Right.
That's what they do in Soviet countries. Or I should say countries that aren't America, the ones that are communist.
Right. So you're joining us tonight. I appreciate that. One of the things we're going to talk about is the California education system. And it seems that what happens in California eventually heads this way. But thanks for joining us, and we'll be right back. I forgot to do that at the beginning of the show. So anyway, it's just
I was like, what is he doing?
I still have breath and I'm not wasting it. And that's what this show is all about. So we are talking tonight about the demoralization of a nation, and is it possible that we are already there? In the Bible, it says in the end days, right will be considered wrong and wrong will be considered right. And people will be lovers of evil and haters of good. In California, in the school system, they have decided to teach about the Aztec gods. And one of the things that just really struck me this week, I'm trying to share this screen if I can, is that they're teaching our kids. I don't have kids in elementary school or high school anymore, but I have grandkids coming up through those schools, and they're beginning to teach our kids to chant to the Aztec gods for power. And they teach them these chants, and they teach them how to chant to these gods for power, to give them energy and courage to fight for social justice change in America.
See, and how is that okay? But it's not okay to pray to Jesus in schools. That's no Bibles in the library, but you
The
can pray to the
rhetorical question of the
Bible.
night.
I know, it's just,
Yeah. And so,
well, it's not okay.
no, it's not okay.
It's not okay.
So the chant to the Aztec gods of human sacrifice in California. And let me tell you about the gods that they're chanting to and what they're known for. The latest draft of the proposed ethnic studies model curriculum, which will undergo a vote next week for approval, center and place high values of the traditions and experiences of the pre-Columbian America to critique white supremacy and racism that led to their marginalization in the modern world. In the community chant of the Eekklesia, which translates to "You are my other me," teachers are instructed to first lead the group of students in chanting and clapping to Tezcatlipoca, a cannibalistic wizard god who, according to the Aztec tradition, brought the downfall to the Toltec civilization in favor of human sacrificing Aztecs. The students then chant to their other deities, including Huitzilopochtli, hard word, the Aztec sun god, seeking healing epistemologies and a revolutionary spirit, seeing themselves as people of the sun. Aztecs believed that, hard word, needed daily nourishment of human blood and hearts, and brutally sacrificed hundreds of thousands of people in offering to him. These gods were, back in the day, they were gods that would sit on top of a pyramid. They would torture humans, cut out their heart, and roll them down to the bottom of the pyramid for the people to either burn and sacrifice or to eat. And most commonly they would eat them. They're cannibalistic type of Indians. But public schools now are prohibited from leading state-sanctioned Christian prayers. They would presumably be similarly prohibited from leading the state-sanctioned chants to the Aztec gods, according to some critics, which I agree with. Now, Snopes to the rescue. Is this really true? Snopes says this is mostly false. But see what's false. The California Ethnic Studies model, which was adopted as a voluntary curriculum in the state in March 2021, calls for, what are you doing? Oh, she's looking around. Calls for counter-genocide against white Christians and makes students honor Aztec gods of human sacrifice in their chants. That's the claim. What they say is true is the California Ethnic Studies model, which schools can voluntarily adopt or not, suggests that students participate in the community chant. In a community chant, it's just a community chant that includes references to these two gods, which are translated as self-reflection and the will to act, respectively. Now, who can't argue with that? Self-reflection and the will to act? I mean, that sounds good, right? Some historical accounts describe the words as names of gods whom Aztecs carried out human sacrifices. However, that's
what's true.
Yes, that's what's true.
So it's okay because
it's mostly false. What's false is that these two gods are presented in the community chant not as gods of human sacrifice, but as the names of broad indigenous concepts that teach students self-reflection and action. Moreover, the ESMC does not contain references to or advocate for the counter-genocide against white Christians. So it's a mostly peaceful protest with the fire burning in the back and the buildings. It's quite.
Some things just make you shake your head.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So comment below if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube. Give us a comment. Do you agree with this kind of instruction in school? In schools that don't even teach the history of America right anymore? I mean, America was founded on Christian principles, absolutely founded on Christian principles. No question whatsoever. We left England so that we could worship Jesus and have a Christian nation. Everything in our founding documents are centered
and that the gospel will go forth from America to the world. That's why America was founded. Right.
Giving everybody here the freedom to do that, to worship, not just the freedom to worship the God of your choice. And yes, our founding documents do give you that freedom to worship the God of your choice. But in our schools, where they are teaching subversion and the demoralization of America to our children, they can't worship Jesus. You can't even say the stinking Pledge of Allegiance in our schools anymore. I remember a day when we went to school, and every morning, the very first thing you did was stand up, and it would be the greatest honor of your day if you were the one that got to go to the principal's office and do the Pledge of Allegiance over the microphone, over the PA system. And everybody would stand in the class and put their hand over their heart and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Every morning. Every single morning, without fail.
But because that Pledge of Allegiance pledges allegiance to a country that our education system is teaching our children to hate. And it has a phrase in there that we're one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You can't say that in a school.
Well, and they don't want to teach our children to say, I pledge allegiance. You know, we didn't realize it back then that we were memorizing something that was making us proud of our nation. And we were pledging allegiance to our nation.
Yeah.
And it was one God, indivisible. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most
And
children
we didn't really know what we were saying back then, but now it's like, yeah, that's exactly me. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm proud of my nation. I'm proud of
Absolutely.
America.
I'm proud of this country. I think we're the least racist country in the entire world.
Yeah. And now we don't want to teach our kids that because they'll be proud of America.
Yeah.
So they want our kids to hate America. And that seems to
and
be
they
what's
want you to hate your whiteness. They're teaching our children to hate their own race and to feel guilty for what some stupid people, mostly Democrats back in the early days of this country, started slavery. It was a Republican president that put an end to it. And, you know, I don't mean to get off into Democrat and Republican. It's really about what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's about good versus evil.
it is about good versus evil. So,
At this point, it is.
yeah. So this is how they characterize it in a nice little cute way. In this,
They would
In a cartoon.
in a cartoon.
The use of a sacred sacrificial dagger, as it was believed their blood would give life to the sun, each drop slowly reviving it in order to give it the strength to rise again each and every day.
Oh my God.
Heart
Yes.
would then be placed by the priest.
This is the
in a
God that
stone
they're
box
chanting to.
and was either incinerated and offered to the sun for it to consume, or was eaten by the high priest. Often these victims for human sacrifice would impersonate a deity, and their sacrifice would mimic the one that the god had once given in the past. They were dressed up and acted like the chosen deity, and were treated by others very highly, like they were celebrities.
Wow.
Their title was seen as a true honor, and after they had been executed, their body parts were eaten by the people, often the ruling class, in order to please the gods even further. One particularly gruesome ritual would see prisoners of war dressed up to look like various gods, who would then be sacrificed, have their hearts cut out, and their skin flayed from their dead bodies. Their skins would then be worn by the priest as a costume to represent the deity. The festival
Unbelievable.
determined how the sacrificial ceremony was carried out, as the Aztecs were a complicated people with an advanced social culture.
With an advanced social
With an
culture.
advanced social culture. What an
How
incredible!
is that advanced?
These are the pyramids where they would kill the people. Sometimes they would not kill them; they would torture them and roll them down. And by the time they were at the bottom, if their heart was actually, they'd cut the heart out at the top. But if there were some that they would roll down that they weren't quite dead yet, and if they were not dead at the bottom, then they would get eaten alive, basically. So. What a incredibly offensive
Very much so.
thing to teach our children to chant to. I mean, good grief. It just makes me livid.
Well, that's got a principality behind it for sure.
It's absolutely the most
It's vile.
vile and offensive thing
Yeah.
that you can ever. So 2 Timothy 3, but mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying its power. That says a lot about the church right there. Having nothing to do with such people. So, wake up, church. It's time to get involved in your community. It's time you know, that
Oh yeah, we need to be running for city council and school board and
boards and city council and get involved in local municipal politics and start changing the trajectory of how they teach our children, lest we wake up in 10 years or 20 years like we are now and realizing how far astray we've gone. And now you've got generations of people coming up and taking positions of power who've been taught Marxist and communist ways of belief and believing that socialism is good.
Right.
And
which to us is like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
How can you think socialism is good?
Yeah. What's wrong?
They do.
Yeah, absolutely. They do.
Now, not all of them. There's some young people coming up. We went to a conference the other night where there was a lot of young people there that had conservative values, and that was very encouraging.
It was nice. It was encouraging to see.
Yeah, it wasn't a bunch of 60-year-olds. There was actually a bunch of 20-somethings there.
Yeah, it was very encouraging to see all these people there that love this country and were, you know, having those kinds of beliefs. And let me tell you, for those of you that go to a church where the pastor shies away from preaching about things in the news and things in current politics because they don't want to lose their 501c3 status, it's time for the churches to get vocal. It's time for the churches to get involved. This whole belief that the churches can't be involved in state government is a fallacy.
I'm pretty sure Donald Trump changed that. It was not widely known, but I'm thinking he did that. He made it so they wouldn't lose their 501c3 if they talked about politics from the pulpit.
Well, that's what so many people that are in
the Johnson Amendment, I think,
are worried about that.
Right. But I don't think they know that he changed that. Now, Biden may change it back in those 70 some odd executive orders that he did. Nobody even knows what the 70 things he did was.
When God was talking to Peter about he was the rock, and on this rock I will build my, most people say church, but the Greek word for that he used there was Eekklesia. And Eekklesia, that's a good thing to look up and talk about.
Eekklesia is the governing body of the church. It's a group to be the voice of King Jesus into the government or the state, even the nation. I've got that on my computer.
You do?
I sure do. On this rock, I will build my church, my Eekklesia, my governing body. And the gates of hell
will not prevail.
The gates of hell, God, Satan's government will not prevail against it.
Right.
That's what that verse actually means. It's talking about government, God's government.
So let me share that. Oh, that's somebody's alarm going off there. Can you see that screen there, Linda?
Yeah. It's a little small, but I can see it.
So the Eekklesia is, that make it better?
Yeah.
A political assembly of citizens of ancient Greek states, especially the periodic meeting of the Athenian citizens for conducting public business and considering affairs proposed by the council. One of the local organizations of the Christadelphians. Now, still, so many people are taught, and our kids are taught, that there should be a separation of church and state, and that's not at all true. The separation of church and state was...
Or they have it backwards of what it really means.
Right. They have it backwards of what it means. That was Thomas Jefferson wrote that in a letter to the church, and basically said that the government should not be involved in the church. So there should be a separation there, that the government cannot get involved in the church, but that doesn't mean the church can't get involved in government. And the church should get involved in government. The church should be involved in the government of teaching our children and the things that they're learning in schools. And okay, you want to teach them about the Aztec Indians and these crazy gods that they pray to and what they...
Right, because that is history. This did happen.
I'm not saying don't teach it.
Right.
But teach it on a level playing field.
Exactly.
And, you know, I'll never forget.
Within the history of What would that be? That wouldn't be world. That would be world history.
Well, when I was a kid in grade school, we did a paper on the beginning of the world. What do you believe about the beginning of the world? How did it begin? And we were supposed to talk about a theory other than God creating the world. And so I wrote a paper on the Big Bang Theory. And I want you to know, my teacher called me to the side and said, "What's the Big Bang Theory? Like, are you kidding me? You've never heard of the Big Bang Theory?" I mean, I was in the 3rd grade or 4th grade or 5th grade or whatever it was. I was probably in the 5th grade or 6th maybe. But
see, I never had to do that.
I believe in the Big Bang Theory. I believe God spoke and there was a big bang. I believe, well, it was something similar to that, but it was basically that there was a big explosion and that created matter, and that all this matter, you know, that's what the Big Bang Theory is. But she didn't even, I mean, I think I got like a D or an F on that, or she made me do the paper over again or something, because she had never heard of the Big Bang Theory. And I look back on that today, and I think I felt stupid, but I was pretty sure that I was right. I'd read that somewhere. Back then we had encyclopedias. We didn't have Google. Good Lord, if we'd have had Google back then.
Encyclopedias were very expensive, so not everybody had them.
Right. You go to the library for those.
You go to your local library.
We didn't have a full set.
Right.
We had to go to the library to look in the encyclopedia. Not that I was a poor, wretched child, but I mean, we were middle-class people. We didn't have, a full set of encyclopedias when I was that age. May have gotten them later. Anyway.
Now, not only have they been teaching this for a long time, like back 10, 12 years ago, I remember our kids were coming out of our church youth group, going to college and coming back different. Coming back doubting God, doubting everything they were ever taught.
Right.
Well, they were teaching that to our college students. They were also teaching our elementary kids, and slowly. And I'm sure that some states did it more than others, because like you said, it happens probably more in these Democrat states where they were trying to socialize our kids into a socialistic, because, there's a new thing, and I don't know if this is in the Equality Act or what it is, but I read something the other day. It said, the little thing to get me to click on it said 4 + 4 = 3, or 2 + 2 = 3 or something. And it said something about, is it okay to not judge our kids if they get this answer wrong? And so I opened it up and read it, and it really was part of critical race theory. Mm-hmm. And it talked about different classes might be better or worse at math. And they said that Black children tend to be worse at math, whereas white kids and Asian kids especially tended to be really good at math. So they would have to start having their race at the top of the paper with their name.
Oh my gosh.
And if a white child or an Asian child said 2 + 2 is anything other than 4, then it was marked wrong, and they had to get the answer right. If a Black student said 2 + 2 is 3 or 5 or anything other than the correct answer, they were patted on the head. And this is in Oregon. This is happening. Patted on the head and said, "Well, that was really good that you had a new way of looking at that." And I thought, how is that not the most racist thing you could do? Right. Is to not educate the Black children. Sit there and say, well, they tend to have lower scores in mathematics, and that's really a racist thing for us to say that they keep getting it wrong. So we're just going to tell them it's right, which that's foundational. If you don't get your math right, you can't function. I mean,
it's factual. It's not open for
discussion.
Yeah.
Right. So I was reading this thing. It says liberals believe that scientific and mathematical talent are distributed unequally among the races. That's what liberals believe, with Asians being well endowed in those areas and Blacks being below average. Therefore, it is appropriate to discriminate against Asians and to lower standards for Blacks by pretending that it is unimportant to get the right answer in a math problem. And I thought that's the most racist thing you can do, to not educate the children. Because if you want people to come out of poverty, you need to educate them. They need to. So this guy says, I suppose it would be possible to come up with a better plan to destroy Black academic performance by telling the Black students not to worry about getting the right answer to a math problem, but I can't think of what it would be.
Right.
That's exactly how I feel about it. Like, what a great way to press them down, make them think that they're really thinking good.
Yeah. And they get it wrong.
That's a liberal idea.
Yes. And I know. And it's
real, and they're doing it in these classes.
I know. We're in the end days, Linda. I mean, right is wrong and wrong is right.
I mean, I just can't believe it.
Yeah.
And why are Black people not jumping up and down about this and going, you will not do this to my child in school?
I know it.
They need
on time here, but
because they don't know. They don't know what's happening.
It's just like that, the law in Georgia, which we'll talk about in our next show, the election reform law and the MLB pulling out of Georgia because they passed this law, which requires you to have a driver's license for absentee voting and other things. I mean, if you break it down, it's really expanding voting. It's not limiting voting. Right. But can you think of something more racist than to say, you know, the poor Black people in our state can't get driver's licenses. They don't know how to do it. Yeah. And if you make them get a driver's license, they're just not going to be able to vote. I can't think of a more racist thing to say. I can't. I can't either. And act like Black people aren't competent enough to take up. All of us have smartphones. If they don't, they can find somebody that does and say, how do I get it? How do I go get an ID? Yeah.
I'll take you.
And to, there's one place where it says you've got to put your, let me share this, where you've got to put your driver's license number on like an absentee voter ballot. Yeah, that's what word I'm looking for there, baby. Thank you. So let me share this with you. So this is just so typical. And they had this example.
Is it be offensive? Like, where is it? I'm not seeing it.
I'm fixing to bring it in here. Okay. They had this example of a driver's license, and it said, which number is correct? So now, before it didn't have these arrows. Well, it does have the arrows. The red arrow said, the new Georgia law will require voters to submit an ID by mail. Remember, by mail, not in person. This is if you vote by mail, you have to write your driver's license number on the ballot. If they use a driver's license, they need to provide the number. One of the two numbers below is correct. If they put the other number, it will be rejected. Are you sure you would pick the right one? Now, one of them says DL number.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for your driver's license number, the poor Black people can't tell that DLNO period means driver's license number.
Why if you're Black is that? Like, why wouldn't a white person mess it up just as much as a Black person?
Right.
That's just so offensive.
It is offensive. It's absolutely offensive. It's the most racist thing you could ever say about a race. And they're saying the opposite of that is true. For us to require them to have that
is racist. Unbelievable.
Absolutely unbelievable. Do you know, I was going to save this for the other show, but do you know all the things that you have to do, have to show a driver's license for? You want to know what they are?
I think I saw that the other day, and I thought that was a very good visual. Because you know what? You need a visual.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find it. So, is it racist for someone to require you to have a driver's license to, say, drive a car, to rent a car, to buy a car, to purchase alcohol, cigarettes, open a bank account, apply for food stamps, apply for welfare, apply for Social Security, apply for a job, apply for unemployment, rent a house, buy a house, apply for a mortgage, fly on an airplane, get married, purchase a gun, adopt a pet, rent a hotel room, apply for a hunting license, buy a cell phone, visit a casino, or a number of other things that all of those require a driver's license.
You have to have a license for everything.
Yes. And you know what?
And like you just said,
you don't have to have a driver's license. No, you don't have to have a driver's license.
that had all your government programs on there too. You can't get any government help for anything without.
But it doesn't require a driver's license, Linda. It requires
ID,
a state ID.
Yeah.
And you know those are free. You don't pay any money for a
I
state
didn't know state ID was free. I thought it'd be $20.
No, it's free.
Yeah, there's no reason you can't get an ID. The only thing you don't need an ID for is voting. Now, isn't that convenient?
But it's racist for Georgia to require you to write your driver's license number or your state ID number on an absentee ballot. Now, it's not required that you show your license at the polling location. You can show a number of other IDs, including a Blockbuster rental card. And most people don't know what Blockbuster is anymore, but I think you can even show a library card and vote.
You know what? Because you had to have your ID probably to get the library card.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
Just to insinuate that people are too stupid to know how to get an ID is offensive. I'd be jumping up and down and saying, "Who do you think you are?" Acting like we're all so stupid.
It would make me absolutely, if I was a black person, I would be absolutely offended, and I would not vote for anybody that
promoted that.
That promoted that.
But we all know that it's obvious. It should be obvious. It's just so they can cheat.
There's no other reason for it.
No, there really isn't.
The reason that you wouldn't require somebody to be able to prove who they are.
Right. Because every person gets one vote.
It would leave an avenue for you to cheat.
Yep.
Yep.
See, to me, that just is plain as day.
Yeah.
I don't know how it could be any otherwise, but other people are like, oh, no, it's not.
Yeah. Telling you, we better wake up, folks, because.
And it's such a big problem. I know what it feels like to be one person. Like I'm just little old me in my little old small town. How does what I think or do going to make a difference? So I go out there and say something. What's my little one voice going to do? But if all of us would take our one little voice, it would turn into one big voice.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do is we need to come together.
And that's why we're doing
it. No, I refuse. I forbid that kind of teaching in my children's schools. I forbid that kind of law that says I don't need a voter ID. I forbid that avenue to cheat. No, I forbid it in the name of Jesus.
In the name of Jesus. Let it be so.
That's right.
So we've gone way over our time. Linda was like, you need to quit doing these long videos. Nobody's going to watch these long videos. And that's probably true. A lot of people don't watch these videos. We started with a 0 following. Remember, I can only do 0 like that, or I'll be considered a white supremacist. But we started with a 0 following on our Facebook page. And I want you to know, let's see, where are we? This is 3 days in?
3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah. It's embarrassing. It's not embarrassing. We're just starting off. We have 166 followers in 3 days. That's not bad, honestly. I'm excited about my 166 followers. And if you're watching this video, please hit the like button, the thumbs up button. If you're on YouTube, hit the little bell and subscribe and then the little bell. Share it. Sharing it helps us more than anything. If you share this video and comment on something below, it helps us more than anything because that helps the algorithm because you're spreading data, and Facebook loves it when you.
People get afraid to share stuff like this.
Yeah,
because they're afraid that they're going to be tagged.
Yeah, we're already on a list, baby. So
I know, but I just know how that feels.
Yeah,
a lot of times I haven't shared things because I knew it would either offend somebody who might have been in my friends list. Because let's face it, half of our friends list are the other side.
So if you're like me lately, I don't tolerate that anymore. If you have absolutely ridiculous communist Marxist beliefs, I unfriend you. Yeah. I just do. I'm not gonna tolerate people. Now, if you comment below and you disagree with me, you have the right to do that. You're in a free country, and my kids have all fought for that right. And we have some currently fighting for your right to be stupid.
David.
Well, I mean,
for your right to disagree.
That's what I meant to say.
Not be rude or ugly or right at, an arm's length thing, but
I get it. Anyway,
yeah, you're free to think how you want to think, which is becoming under fire in this country. because there's a whole section of America that's not allowed to think and say what they think without being canceled. And that should be concerning to everyone, whether you're liberal, Democrat, Republican, independent. That should be a huge concern.
Yes, I agree. So that's why we're doing these videos, because we want to be vocal and we're not going to be silent anymore. We have been silent, but the majority, the majority is the majority. But just because we're the majority doesn't mean that we win.
Right.
If we sit on our rumps and we go every Sunday and we warm a pew, and then Monday through Saturday we don't do anything.
Yeah, they say that's actually a very small percentage of society that actually runs everything.
Yeah,
and the rest of us are just quiet followers. I think it's like what, 2% or 3% actually runs everything. They're on the top elites.
Yep.
And we just don't think we can do anything because they said, well, we have to.
So anyway, we've gone way over time, so we're going to let you guys go for the night. Thanks for staying with us. If you stayed with us this whole 41 minutes and 26 seconds, you're a trooper. You're a patriot. And we love you. But we'll be back. We're going to try. We're not doing them every day because it's just not feasible with our schedule.
And I don't expect somebody to watch an hour of us every day.
No, I don't either. Yeah. We're not really meaning to do an hour. We meant to have this one to be 20 minutes or less.
Yeah.
We got carried away.
We got to do better.
We're going to do better, folks. You're not going to have to, but you can always skip through and
okay, say goodbye.
Scrub through if you're tired of watching it. And we'll be back in a day or two. So message us, share it with somebody, and be sure to invite your friends to like our page because it'll just make us feel better. We love you guys. Enjoy your night, and everybody be safe.